Now, it's 10:30. Welcome back to session number 7. Jürgen, what are we going to talk about?
So now we are going to the other corner. We was talking about fragile goods in the previous session. Now it's more dangerous goods, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to this.
So we hand over to Jean-Michel Muir from our colleagues at Fusion for Energy ITER, who will guide us through this session, and it will be an explosive one, right?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session 7 of RI.Logistica, dedicated, as you said, to the transport of dangerous and hazardous goods. So I'm just a few words. I'm Jean-Michel Muir. I'm the head of nuclear safety at Fusion for Energy, the European joint undertaking in charge of the European contribution to the ITER project. But if I'm here and I've been asked to moderate this session, is rather related to my previous position at CEA here at Cadarache, where I was in charge of nuclear transport as the head of the nuclear transport unit, in charge of the preparation, organization, and implementation of transports of radioactive materials. So today we will hear from 3 organizations who are experienced in shipping dangerous goods around the world. A first presentation from IAEA, with logistics and transportation of dangerous goods, including radioactive sources of class 7. Then we will have a presentation from France, from CNRS, ULIS, on transportation of lithium batteries. And then finally from Sweden, Linda Gass will present us the safety values and rationale behind the transport of cylinder gas. With these 3 presentations, we will try to understand what are the main challenges these organizations have to face in their everyday work, how they are organized to cope with these very stringent regulations that we have to comply with in the field of hazardous and dangerous goods, and what kind of tools and methods that they try to implement to prevent incidents and accidents to occur. Before leaving the floor to our presenters, just a few technical details. We will have the 3 presentations and then have time at the end for exchanges and discussions. And if you wish to ask a question, use the questions and answers tool at the bottom of the screen to send your questions, and then we will distribute them at the end of the 3 presentations. Okay, now let's start with our first presentation by IAEA, by Richard Lelièvre. So Richard, are you ready? Just a few introductions to introduce you. So you are a procurement officer at IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, with a strong focus on West Africa and Middle East regions. Your experience in emergency procurement and logistics in fragile environments. You have 11 years of expertise in procurement within the United Nations in the provisions of logistics services, medical commodities, aviation services, construction works, vocational training, and nuclear specialized equipment. You are also working on IAEA procurement strategies and governance to support IAEA in achieving its mandate and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, called the SDGs. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So if you allow me, I will share the presentation already. Just let me know if you can see it properly.
Yes.
You have it? Okay, very good. So good morning, everyone. Thank you. So we have only 15 minutes per presentation, so I will try to be brief. And today I will give you an overview of IAEA Logistics, and also the transportation of dangerous goods, how we handle dangerous goods, including radioactive material class 7. So, some background information to start. IAEA has been established in 1957 and is known as the World Center for Cooperation in the Nuclear Field. And we work with our member states and multiple partners worldwide to promote the peaceful, safe, secure, and use of nuclear technologies. IAEA has its headquarters in Vienna, Austria, and we have also 2 regional offices located in Toronto, Canada, and Tokyo, Japan. And we have also 2 liaison offices, one in New York, obviously, because the UN is there, and one in Geneva in Switzerland. We run also laboratories specialized in nuclear technologies, one in Austria called Hazardous, so it's pretty known in the nuclear field, and one in Monaco in the Principality of Monaco. Now I will explain you basically in terms of logistic, in terms of shipping. We have 2 main departments for which we are shipping. The first one is this slide is the technical cooperation program, and the next slide is about the safeguards, which is one of the core mandates of IAEA. So for technical cooperation, I will give you some characteristics. From 2017 to 2020, we have been handling over 1,750 shipments for about 2 million annually, 2 million euros. We ship for technical programs for more than 130 countries, from supplier directly to the final destination. And if you look regionally how it looks, we are 36% in the African regions, 20% for Americas, and that represents 56% of the TC program shipments. And then we have Asia Pacific 20% and Europe 20% as well. 95% of our shipments are by air, and it is because of they are mainly below 1 ton each for the shipment. So that's why mainly they are all by air. And when they go above 1,000, then when they go above the ton, then we ship them by sea, rail, or road, or any other means that we can use. The typical goods that we are shipping includes general cargo, such as specialized electronic equipment, laboratory supplier, and a minor part is comprising dangerous goods, temperature control, and license control shipment. So for technical cooperation, we have, in terms of dangerous goods, a minor part. This is not representing the major part of the shipment at IAEA. However, for safeguards, and this is where I move to the next slide. For safeguards, safeguards activities at IAEA are the verification activities. So we are sending safeguards inspectors all over the world to check facilities and to do that work. So for the shipping characteristic for safeguards, the most frequent route is between Austria, Japan, Germany, USA, South Korea, Iran, and Monaco. So you see that basically it's also between our offices, between our laboratories, and for some region where we have a strong activity, like in Iran, for example, or South Korea. Most of the shipments are 60% of the package are less than 50 kilograms. So this is also again by air, most of it if we can. 60% below, more than 60, around 60% of the shipments are containing dangerous goods in this case. So mainly lithium batteries. So you see that for safeguards compared to TC, where we have like 5% approximately, for safeguard, this is 60% of dangerous goods, even though it's mainly lithium batteries. Regarding radioactive materials, so class 7 dangerous goods, the majority of the radioactive shipment contains relatively low level of radioactivity. These are medical isotopes, calibration sources. They are mostly below the exemption level as per IATA dangerous goods regulation. So as per regulation, we are most of them are below. So now I will give you an overview quickly on the RI.Logistica. IAEA doesn't have its own logistics, so we don't have we don't act as freight forwarder. So what we have is a full turnkey logistics solution. So we are contracting freight forwarders as 3PL logistics services for high quality freight forwarding services. So including general cargo, temperature control, but also dangerous good, of course, and for license control shipments. What we do here at IAA, we have laboratories, but we are also both in headquarters in the laboratories. We are certified to be consignor shippers in accordance with the European Union, the regulations. So we can ship as well the goods ourselves because we are certified. So what does the freight forwarder that we contract? What do we expect from them is that they do the freight forwarding and carrier relationship, that they take care of the goods packing and labeling, that they are doing warehousing for us, that they track shipment, that they report to us, and that they also act, and this is an important part for IAA because it's not the case for all UN organizations, but that they also deal with the custom clearance for us. So how do we select, how do we contract, how do we select our freight forwarder? We have some requirements. This is not all the requirements in that slide, but this is the major part. So what we expect from the freight forwarder is that they manage the entire transport chain, logistic functions and related activities to the point of origin to the point of destination, including all elements of the various mode of transportation necessary. So if it's dangerous good, we expect them to have appropriate training as per the, or at least that the carrier that they take, that they select as per industry regulation, as the proper training to handle dangerous goods, for example, including class 7, perishable goods and live animal. We expect also them to have all the required equipment, facilities, qualified personnel, expertise, and that is done through the bidding that we do when we select them. We are making sure and we ensure that they are fulfilling all these requirements, including the ISO certification, quality certification, environmental management. So all the according to the current regulation when we do the bidding. Now I will move to the next slide. The IAA shipments of dangerous goods. How do we handle dangerous goods? So mainly what we ship is laboratory chemicals, biological and cold chain. For example, flies, vaccine blood, pathological samples, but also radioactive sources. But as said, the radioactive sources are usually just at the limit of what is authorized. You can see what I put in the presentation, the UN numbers that are most frequently used by us. So these are the codes that are used for dangerous goods. I think for when we share the presentation, it can be useful if someone is interested. We occasionally request also the freight forwarder to arrange transportation from isotope, utilized for irradiation and the recovery of them and the transportation of them once the source has been used back to the country of origin. We ask that also to the freight forwarder. What we expect from the shipper is that they classify, identify, and mark, label, and document the dangerous goods according to the regulation. So we don't do the regulation. We ask the shipper, but also the supplier to follow the regulation. So it is the freight forwarders and the airline responsibility to comply with the dangerous good regulation. This is their responsibility. So that's why we subcontract. So now, what we expect from our side on how they should handle the class 7, so the radioactive material. We expect them that they follow the applicable international and national rules and regulation for the transport of this material that must be adhered. And I put international and national rules because this is very important to take that into account, that basically depending on the route that the goods will take, we have to ensure that the freight forwarder that is following not only the international regulation, but also national, because they can be different. Also, the radioactive sources should travel by the most direct route We don't want it to be too complicated. It has to go straight by the most direct one. The document to us should be sent at least 5 working days in advance of the arrival at destination, because for some country, the advance notification can take longer. So when we ship radioactive sources, we need to have advance notification sufficient so that we can make sure that the country can handle it on time. It is the supplier for us, it is the supplier and the consignee responsibility to provide the export and the import licenses and related certificate for dangerous goods, and for them to be cleared from export and import in liaison with the freight forwarder. So IAEA doesn't deal with it themselves. What we do is the responsibilities from our supplier, from the consignee, so what we call the end user as well, and the freight forwarder to deal with it together. So we are here to support, but still the responsibility is on them. And of course, we expect that the freight forwarder is providing dedicated personnel that can monitor the radioactive sources shipments. So they are monitored actively, and we need to have dedicated staff from origin to destination. So now, in case we have been asked in that presentation, so now I gave you an overview on how, from a procurement perspective, because I'm a procurement expert, not a logistic expert, nor a radioactive or nuclear scientist. But I will give you some information on the next slide on how IAEA is prepared in case there would be an incident. But bear in mind, the incident I'm talking about is not only about IAEA. It's about any nuclear incident in the world, radiological incident in the world. This has nothing to do only with IAEA. This is for anything. So IAEA, all the information you see in the next slide, you can find on our website. This has been extracted, and in the presentation, I've placed the link so that you can find easily and you can access easily to that information. So IAEA is having an emergency and preparedness response program. So that's the EPR, and we help to maintain and strengthen effective emergency preparedness and response capability at national and international level. That means IAEA is working with the member states and several partners to develop safety standards, guidelines, and technical tools. We assist the members in building the capacity for emergency response in case there is a radiological incident or nuclear incident. And we maintain the IAEA and emergency system, because IAEA has a system that is available for any member states and any partners to support in case there is an incident. So I will develop a bit more by going to the next slide. In case there is an incident, we have a response, and the IAEA role into it is to notify and provide official information and exchange, and to assess the potential emergency consequences and prognosis of potential emergency progression, provide public information as well and assistance on request, and also coordinate the interagency response as it fulfills the incident and emergency system within the system. For that, in terms of operationality, you have what we call the IEC, and the IEC is the Incident and Emergency Center. Here within the IAEA, there is a dedicated team and a dedicated emergency and incident center, which is created. So that looks like an emergency room, like what you would see in movies. And this is for real. These people are here and they are on 24/7. They are responding. They have constantly a phone with them that they cannot even take out if they go to swimming pool. So this is the level of emergency and incidents response that we have. It has been established in 2005 to provide round-the-clock assistance to member states, including security-related threats as well, not only incidents, but also nuclear threats, insecurity-related threats. And the IEC is acting as a global focal point for international emergency preparedness and communication and response. So if there is anything happening, that will be treated by the center. In line with it's of course, and this is more related to regulations. I'm not a specialist on it, so bear in mind that I put the link over there so you can find more information on it. It's done in line with the Convention on Early Notification of a Nuclear Accident and the Convention on Assistance in the case of nuclear accident and radiological emergency. So the AAC role includes maintenance as well of the AA response and assistance network. So now this being said, I will give you some additional information on the networks. If you want to have more information also, IAA has developed several networks. So I will not have a slide for each of them, but at least I've chosen a few of them. The first one is the Global Nuclear Safety and Security Network, so the GNSSN. It's a basic conceptual structure, and it has a set of guiding principles for achieving and maintaining a high level of safety and security. It's a cornerstone for strengthening the networking, and you can find on that network various contact and link and content. So I really advise you to go and check the website. The next network I've chosen is the platform. It's not a network. This one is a platform. We call it the Connect platform. It's an online tool. So you can use that platform to host a wide range. So IAA is hosting professional networks over there. So by connecting to that platform, you'll be able to connect with professionals and experts from IAEA, but also from the member states in terms of nuclear. So if you need information, that's where we share it. That's where we do also capacity building. And it's offering a centralized resource hub. So this is where we can centralize the networking and the information. So finally, I give you a slide. So for the ones who want to have the presentation, you see there is a lot of network at IAEA. So you can, using this link, go to the website and find them and have more information about it. And I think from my side, the last one that I want to talk about is the Nucleus Information Resource Portal. This one is not about network, but this is about more information about IAEA and how IAEA deals with it. We have a resource portal which is providing more like this time scientific, technological, and regulatory resources, including databases, application and publication, and training material as well. So you can access to a lot of information. IAEA provides information open source as well. A lot of them are public. So I invite you to go on that link to have much more information related to scientific, technical, and regulatory resources.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Plenty of information to share, and I guess that we will have access to these presentations, Jürgen, on the RI.Logistica website if we want to. Don't forget to ask questions with the Q&A tool at the bottom of the screen. I see that we have plenty of questions that we will distribute at the end of the free presentation. So I will give the floor now to Stéphanie de Oliveira, who is working for and Stéphanie Châtelain, who are working at CNRS Ulysse. They're logistic agents. They will present you the lithium batteries transportation process that has been put in place at CNRS. So as you know, CNRS is a research institute, national one in France. It takes part in a considerable amount of scientific equipment exchanges between its laboratories and their collaborators in France and abroad. The transportation of scientific goods often involves significant hazards and constraints. The challenge for the institution is to guarantee the safety of the persons and goods, of course, during this transportation. Sorry. So Ulysse, this unit, this specialized unit, is the answer to this necessity, educating laboratories on these issues and defining the most adequate transport solution while following the various regulations. So Stephanie, if you're here, the floor is yours if you want to start your presentation.
Okay.
And just before you start, if you have the attendees, if you have any tools that you use for your classification of dangerous goods, workflow tools, off-the-shelf tools, and you want to share them with the audience, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and people can also see them and maybe get to know them. Okay, it's up to you then, Stephanie.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Stéphanie Châtelain. I'm the operation manager of ULIS. This is the international logistical unit of the CNRS. Let me introduce you Stéphanie de Oliveira. She's going to present our activity and quickly, and she's going to focus on hazardous goods, and especially on lithium batteries. On lithium batteries. We are going to show you our process when we have to ship lithium batteries. Okay.
So good morning, everyone. I am Stéphanie de Oliveira, a logistic agent. So I'm going to present ULIS presentation. So ULIS is a logistical unit, which is part of CNRS, a public scientific institution. We organize all kinds of transport for CNRS, scientific missions all over the world. We are divided between two main departments. The first one, the operation department, with 9 agents certified in dangerous goods. We are in charge of handling transport, custom formalities, packaging, and other regulations related to logistics. The second department is dangerous goods and safety advisors. They are in charge of helping and teaching laboratories. ULIS support laboratories with a transportation reliability, a streamlined administration, a cost control, and the securitization and shared responsibility. Our mission is to propose the most suitable transport solution to the laboratory. That's the reason why we work with several providers. Moreover, we advise laboratories on the packaging and the labeling according to the regulation if it is necessary. All our shipments are covered by an ad valorem insurance. And for international shipments, we also manage the custom and transport formalities. One of our missions is to study if there are any duties and taxes applicable on the material shipped, or if there is an exemption. Just want to mention also that we have a public tender with freight forwarders for organizing all our transport. To finish, I would like to insist on the shipper because he's the main responsible of the shipment. This is the reason why we need to analyze all the information before shipping a package. Now, I would like to present regulation for the different mode of transport. The first one, the IATA, the International Air Transportation Association for Air Shipments. We base all our analysis and decision according to the IATA. In the middle, the IMDG for sea shipment, and the last one, the ADR for shipment by road. Lithium batteries have become the preferred energy source to power a wide variety of consumer goods, ranging mobile phone, cameras, measurement instruments, laptop, and so on. Most of the time, people are not aware that lithium batteries are dangerous goods. Consequently, it may cause a safety risk. I will insist on this risk on the next slide. They are considered as dangerous goods because they are extremely flammable and cause a lot of smoke. We can just imagine if something happened in a cargo hold, it has already caused accidents in the last 10 years. For that reason, there are a lot of restrictions and restrictive rules every year. Custom authorities control a lot of this kind of goods, and transporting batteries have become more and more complicated. ULIS is in charge of getting all the information from the shipper, if this is an import, or from the CNRS laboratory, in order to make sure the package will be correctly marked and labeled according to the IATA regulation. We will now focus on specific risks related to those batteries. As we said, they are very flammable, and this might cause this kind of event. Just to show you a quick video. A fire triggered by a lithium battery. As we can see, the smoke is very thick and toxic, and it cannot be put out with water. All these characteristics may cause accident, and some of them have been publicized. For example, the Boeing flight UPS airline from Dubai to Cologne in 2010. There were 81,000 batteries divided in 3 pallets, which went on fire due to various events. I can mention 3 of them. Handlers were not trained to dangerous goods transport. Batteries were stuck under 40 degrees in Dubai. And the lining of the cargo compartment was not fire resistant. It resulted in the crash of the aircraft, killing both crew members. For this reason, we try as much as we can to raise awareness for battery shipments. Nevertheless, in case of accident, an emergency number is mentioned on dangerous goods, and the service is available at any time. That's why ULIS always requires some information from the laboratory in order to study the shipment case by case. About this information, we need to know the battery type, if this is a battery lithium-ion metal, its power, if this is in watt-hour for ion or in gram for metal, where and how it is placed, if the battery is inside or outside the equipment or in bulk, the quantity of batteries are concerned by the shipment, and the weight for each one. So now let's take an example. This is an export from France to US by air, and we want to ship 2 laptops and 1 iPad. We have 1 lithium-ion battery in each device. Batteries are inside the equipment. The power is less than 100 watt-hour. And the weight of each battery is 100 grams. So for this example, we will work with one of our providers for shipment by air. Actually, there are 2 options, and regulation are different. Indeed, if you're a passenger, you can also travel with a lithium battery. However, in this case, we will work with the freight forwarder, and the air freight shipment will be used. So we have a battery lithium-ion, and the information is mentioned on the battery, but you can also find out on the MSDS. So the battery is contained in the equipment, and the battery is less than 100 watt-hour. So according to this example, as per IATA regulation and the UN number, we have to respect various specifications about the packaging. Indeed, the equipment must be packed in a strong outer packaging. Moreover, each package is supposed to respect a drop test of 1.20 meters, and several marks need to be stuck on it. The shipper consignee, the lithium battery label with the right UN number, for this one 3481, and the mentioned UN 3481 lithium-ion batteries contained in equipment with the net quantity of 100 grams. So now the package is ready to ship by air. So now let's take another example. We have an export from France to Morocco by air, and we want to ship 1 rover. The battery is a lithium-ion. battery is packed with the equipment, and the power is more than 100 watt-hour. And the weight of battery is 36 kilo. So for this one, it will be a shipment by air, and the air freight shipment will be used. We have a battery lithium-ion. The battery for this one is packed with the equipment in the same external packaging and not as inside the equipment as the previous example. And the battery is more than 100 watt-hour. For this one, we have a battery of 36 kilo. So it can be shipped on a cargo aircraft only and not as a passenger flight. And the label is mandatory on the package. We see on the package the shipper consignee, the class 9 label, the mention UN 3481 with batteries packed with equipment, and the net quantity 36 kilo. To finish, we need to use a certified package with the UNU symbol. ULIS will establish also the dangerous goods declaration. It will be generated by a logistic coordinator, certified IATA, and the document will be mandatory to ship the package. So now the package is ready to ship by air. To sum up, we need to pay attention to some information in order to ship lithium batteries. And all regulations are mentioned on IATA. For packaging, we need to check if a certified package is required or not. If not, it must respect IATA packing's instruction. Regarding labeling, it exists 4 UN number we often meet: UN 3480, 3481, 3490, and 3491. In addition, we have the label class 9 if needed. And the last one, this is the CAO for cargo aircraft only, if mandatory. All that information must be filled out on the dangerous goods declaration by a certified agent. The last point, and this is very important, we need to check on IATA the section according to the state and operators variation, because we can find restrictions for air freight companies and for the countries as well. For example, as we can see, UPS companies have a lot of restrictions regarding lithium batteries. I hope this presentation was clear for you and you have got all the information you may require if you need to ship batteries in the future. If you need more information about our activity, you can find all the information you need in our website, which is www.ulis.cnrs.fr. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Stephanie. On time. Well, thanks a lot. The last presentation will be now made by Thomas Wigberg, sorry, the head of cylinder operations for Linde Gas in Sweden. So Linde Gas is an actor in the gas production and transportation, former AGA Gas AB. So Thomas is responsible for the cylinder and operations business. It includes all gases packaged in containers below 500 liters within all segments: healthcare, industrial, propane, and special gases. Okay. So Tobias, the floor is yours if you want to start your presentation.
Thank you, Jean-Michel, and thank you for having me. I will try to share my screen. Like the majority of men can't do two things at the same time, but if I share it like, hold on, why is this not functioning? I'm having technical issues at the moment. If I share that screen, what do you guys see?
We see your screen, perfect.
Yeah, but do you see it in presentation mode? Which
No, it's not in presentation mode. If you want to switch to presentation mode.
Hold on, I'll do some stop sharing. I share that one. I just need my. For some reason, I can't access my presentation. I have it up, but I can't move it between the screens.
It happens sometimes. If you want to stay in the normal mode without presentation, it will also be okay. Don't worry.
Well, it's hold on. Let's just see if I can start moving that one. Now it seems to work. Sorry for the inconvenience. So putting it up like that. Now it should be fine.
Yes, perfect.
And presentation mode.
Yes.
Well, sorry for that, gentlemen. This is what the logistic is all about. End of the supply chain, you handle all the ripples. Let me just start putting down where we are on the map. Talking about gases, we from day to day talk about liquid gases, which is not really right. We should be liquefied gases. This is more or less how our supply chain looks like. We have at the top left something we call an on-site. This is where we produce the gas. Mainly air gases going that direction. It's an air separation unit, mostly located at the customer plant. Could be a big process industry, a big steel mill. Swedish names like SSAB, Ovako, not being Swedish, Borealis, not either, but still we're there going pipeline to the customers. We have a bulk transportation, which is also ADR classed for sure. And down in my field, which is the cylinder business, we go from a filling station, and as Jean-Michel said, roughly below 500 liters and downwards, either going directly or going through a retailer out and then back. We're like an old school brewery. We need to get the tube or the bottle or the cylinder, call it whatever you want. We need it back for filling. We do approximately 6 million kilometers on Swedish roads every year. 1.6 million units, 100,000 deliveries, 10,000 customers, ballpark, and everything coming back. I will start with a bit of a story. I think this is a bit funny, so I hope you'll understand the Swedish jokes in it. About 2 years ago, I get a phone call on my cell phone. I look down, there's no number specified. So I pick it up. There's a lady calling from the police. My mind goes, what have I done now? She continues her introduction. She talks about calling from the transport segment, handling dangerous goods. My mind shifts. What have we done now? I mean, it happens from time to time that things really go wrong. But regardless, they wanted to meet up. They wanted to have a study visit and very interested in how Linda handles dangerous goods. So we more or less ended up having a study visit with the Swedish police, representatives from all over the country, working with dangerous goods on the roads. It was the Swedish Coast Guard, the Swedish Civil Contingency Agency, which is MSB in Sweden, and some representatives from the Swedish Transport Agency. And in the middle of the session, there's one of the police guys, he raises his hands and he asks, okay, how do you at Linde work with digitalization? And I look upon him, I look upon my two advisors, I have my fleet manager with me, I have my ADR safety advisors. They both happen to be named Johansson as last name, and they started working for the company in the 80s. I won't give away their age. Looking at them and replying, well, look at my advisor's hair color. You understand where we are with digitalization. And they laughed a bit. So yes, my name is Tobias, and without being too biased on that, I think we have what we do under control. We're not forefronters. By all means, we're not, but we handle the rationale from A to Z, and I think that actually works. So going in this aspect, it's a human aspect of the presentation, a bit about our safety principles. We handle more or less only dangerous goods. I'm glad to say, and I'm a bit proud to say as well, that we have outsourced distribution, but we've not outsourced safety. So some of the principles that we have here for trying to have this under control, we plan all the distribution. I just said we've outsourced transportation. We have contractors, yes. We still plan the distribution. We plan it with transfers to the end customers. We don't go more than 12 hours per day, and the ambition, and we tend to fulfill that more or less every day, is the driver shall come home. Not from a safety aspect. If you go with the transportation going Stockholm up Luleå, northern part of Sweden, we have two drivers, one starting from the north, one starting from the south. They swap goods, Sundsvall, approximately in the middle of the distance, and they return home to their families. They drive on a schedule. I don't want them sleeping in the truck. We don't co-deliver. We only use dedicated vehicles. We own our own load carriers, and we cover all our transports. We brand them pretty much as you see on the screenshot on the back of my head. Linde, making the world more productive. So we don't brand that much on what we have in the transports. We don't want to have an opportunity of somebody seeing what's on top of it. We always, and this was a discussion with the police, we always classify our goods being full and our gas cylinders being full. If you picture the first slide, we go out with full cylinders, we come back with empty. Are they empty? No, we don't drive with exceptions. We drive with full points and full signs. This was a long discussion with the police. Some say we were right, some say we're wrong. At the end of the day, they both are rational. We only go at 80 from two reasons. First of all, it's a safe speed. From a harsh braking, you could handle it. From an environmental perspective, fuel consumption, it's okay. And that ADR safety advisor that I had, he also represents 200 retailers. They're contractors to us, yes, but we still want them to handle our products good. That means we provide that for them. If then going in a bit to our contractors and how we work there, we cover Sweden mainly with 3 contractors from tip to toe, Malmö to Kiruna. They're all own companies. We don't do truck centers right now. We don't do thermo haulers. We use the same contract management mindset with all of them, and we start with safety. So let's start talking a bit on how we do, and we try being repetitive, week in, week out. So when we schedule transports out there, on the contractor side, they have supervisors at what we call switch points. We have 13 switch points in Sweden. We don't store anything there. We go there, we might switch trucks, might switch vehicles, and then we continue on. So we don't stock anything. But there are daily meetings there with the scheduler and the supervisor for that switch point. We want to hear about unsafe conditions. We want to hear what's happening on a customer site. If they need more time at the customer site, we add more time to the planning. If they say this junction, this crossing is unsafe, we don't route through it. They discuss distribution planning, schedules, how can we make this more effective, of course, and how can we stay safe. They discuss load planning and safety. Then we consolidate that on a quarterly and biannual contractual meeting with the contractors. Of course, we discuss finance during those things, but we summarize the reports, and we have a demand for our contracts. We want them to report deviations. We want to become better. We have also in those sessions, we have equipped our vehicles with technology to monitor all the drivers. We don't get names. We have approximately 130 drivers in Sweden. We have them driver 1, 2, 3, etc. And that equipment monitors speeding, harsh braking, fuel consumption. And then we go back and we want to see that we really behave. We want to see that we don't have harsh braking. Of course, you can have harsh braking, but if one individual has way more than anybody else, how can we work with that? It's back to a person sitting behind the wheel, and we need to meet that. And well, ex-pandemic, ex-COVID, we're trying, I would say try now because we haven't had it for a year and a half, but we want to have annual meetings with the drivers, meeting them, talking about safety, showing that this is important. I have actually a good example. For me, I think this is good. What came out of these weekly meetings, we saw that we had too many incidents. We had too many drivers falling off the load. Okay, then you can ask yourself why they're up on the load climbing. If you use strapping, I think everybody has used it now for occasionally they do get stuck. So we came up, perhaps not the politically correct name with a Finnish stick, but we still call it that. It's a steel beam that we then put pressure on the pallet. The pallet is where we store the cylinder in. But since we own the full cargo, the swap body, as we call more or less the cabin, we own the pallet, we own the cylinder, we control that full mechanism. This means that the driver doesn't have to step up on the truck anymore, on the load. We can maneuver everything from down there. So every new thing we put on the market, we put like this, just to make sure that we take away a risk of being up on the load. Okay, I've talked a bit about the contractors. Let's get in on the drivers as such. It's a two-way street. I'm used to say that we empower and we demand, or we empower and we require in this case. We require, we demand that we don't use cell phones when we drive. It's a legislation in Sweden that you can drive, talk on the phone as long as you do that with the hands-free. We say we don't use it at all. When you drive, you drive. If you need to call, you stop and you call. If we need to reach the driver while driving, we send a message to his handheld and ask him to call back, which he will do when he stops at the customer site. It shouldn't be necessary if we've done things correctly, but sometimes things do happen. We put up a minimum requirement of 3 years experience before starting driving for us. So our contractors, we want them, and they also need to have a business besides us. It creates economy of scale for them, and we can also balance the need up and down, so they still have work to do. We train our drivers, yes, but I wouldn't say that we start from scratch. We need an experience for starting driving. We train all our drivers. We have plus 30 courses that they need to take before starting to drive. And this is everything from our products to our values to how you handle the system and whatever. But regardless, you need to complete everything before you sit behind the wheel. Then we do defensive training, and we do physical, or is it practical rollover training. It's kind of interesting doing rollover training in Scania with a truck. And trust me, you don't want to see the bill after that one. And what we then empower, and this is the important thing. We want the driver to stop the truck if a condition is not safe. I operate in Sweden. Skåne might be okay, where Jürgen is sitting with his dialect, not that much snow in the winter time, but still moving a bit upwards in the winter. It might come rain on cold roads. I want them to stop. They stop, they call into the scheduling team saying, sorry, we won't be able to deliver today. We go to the customer and we explain the rationale. I've never met a customer that doesn't understand. I meet customers, if they don't get informed, that doesn't like what we're doing. But as long as we are heads up and we're proactive with information, it works. Then we want those drivers to report any type of situation that they feel this is not good. Like I said, everything from a junction, a crossing, saying we want to route in another direction. There are some roundabouts in Sweden that I don't know actually who made them, where you have pedestrians and bicycles that comes into such a roundabout. We try to deviate, go in another direction. The same thing if a customer site is not okay for releasing the load, we want them to say stop. It's not worth it jeopardizing this. They do it from time to time, and I think we handle it fairly okay. Of course, there's a dialogue, but we also say, come back and say how you want it. We do a risk assessment of the drop site, and then we continue. Might be on the spot from the driver, but if he feels unsecure, better saying no. So trying to sum this one up and cover up a bit for my technical issues in the beginning, summarize these works, I would say it's a behavioral thing. It's a behavioral thing from Linde, from individuals. Top left corner, we talk about removing distractions. Obvious things like we don't eat in the truck, take away the cell phone, focus on what you do when you drive. Bottom left corner is also getting that feedback culture. It's a feedback culture with recognition for drivers that are really behaving. It's a feedback culture with consequences, if not. But we need to get that fact coming up on the table, trying to become better. Top right corner, yes, we need to have a balance. Everything from a safety perspective, that the driver should have good hours, the scheduling should be fair. Fatigue is a problem, it's a safety problem, but as well, we don't want a driver coming up to the customer and the customer thinks, okay, here comes the Linde driver, is always tired. No, we should have schedules that are fair. And then we train. Like I said, we do defensive training, defensive driving, rollover training. These things you need to train your vehicle for situation that might be unexpected. But I've also had an organization for 2 years without any severe incidents. Yes, I had a truck off the road, but it did exactly what it should have done. He kept the truck up, headed straight into some small trees. Everything was standing perfectly fine when the police came. Took a while to get it out, still managed fine. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tobias. Very, very interesting. Okay, now let's switch to questions. I've seen in the thread that we have many questions that were already answered by our presenters. Maybe we can have a look at questions still that are still open. A question from Roberto from Elettra for a IAEA for me concerning equipment for measuring dose rates. You ask what kind of equipment can be or measure protocols can be used to measure very low dose rates, especially for exemption rates that need to be measured 5 microsieverts per hour. I don't know, Richard, do you want to take this answer? Do you have a technical advisor with you, or maybe I can take
actually,
it? Okay.
Actually, it's better if you can take it yourself, because as I said,
I'll try to answer.
The technical background for that, and this is not part of the requirement we use as well.
Yeah. So for all of us, when you want to ship some radioactive materials and you want to be exempted from some requirements, you have to make sure that the dose rate is sufficiently low to be sure, and you need to use protocols and materials that are provided by radiation protection specialist. I guess Roberto, you have this kind of a specialist in your team, and they should be able to measure low dose rates with special equipments that can detect such levels. So you have to liaise with your radiation protection specialist, but I guess they should have this kind of equipments. We had that at CA when I was in charge of transports. One problem sometimes is that you start with those rates below the level, and then when you measure it at the end, because you have not measured it correctly, then it's greater than the limit, and then you end up with an event that you have to declare to the safety authorities. So a good lessons learned for this type of problem is to make sure that you measure it all around and very precisely, and you take a margin. If you are at 4.5 for a limit of 5, then you may have to classify in the upper range, because you might end up with a dose rate at the end which is higher. So to sum up, discuss with your radiation protection specialist. They should have the good equipments. Okay, we have a question on for Stephanie from Jürgen Rizal. Do you have also? Oh, she's answering. Okay, so I think you will find your answer in the thread. I have a general question for maybe IAEA or Tobias. In the regulations, we have more and more requirements regarding a very high quantities of dangerous goods. When you have this 1.10 regulation that applies for high quantities of gases or material or radioactive materials. I remember these regulations are becoming very, very stringent. And what do you do for in your companies to train and to put in place some prevention measures and to comply with this kind of requirements? Tobias, maybe you may say a word on that. I guess that you fall under these requirements.
If we go normal gases, it's 80 or 1.3.
Yeah, I would just recall it's for acts of to prevent acts of male violence. I mean, which are very, you know, under scrutiny at the time being.
I mean, there's a natural threat in society for calling it a terrorism. It's another word for it. When we have a couple of gases which talk arsen, phosphine, these are not the type that the military really like using, but we go with fully covered transports. We don't brand anything there. We actually have a special vehicle only delivering those. We have a couple of drivers. They're only dedicated for driving it. We go totally off grid with it. We don't plan it in a natural flow. I actually have my ADR safety advisor that handles those transportations because we see the risk with it. So that truck is specially equipped. It should not be possible to come into, and it goes totally without Linde flag. Just because it's when talking to those customers, the most important thing there is safety. It's never a discussion on price, and then we have jointly agreed we handle it that way.
Okay, right.
So very few individuals involved and everything going without any label.
All right. I guess you have also special policies and procedures for this type of special transport to follow.
Yes, we do. And the number of such a cylinder or tubes are very few. So that makes us able to handle it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Richard, from an IAEA standpoint, I know these regulations come from you, IAEA, that you put some in place some special regulations on acts of male violence. Maybe you want to say a word on that?
For the regulations, I cannot give you the exact one because I said I'm not a specialist in it. But what I can tell you is, from our side, most of the cases we ask the supplier to deal with the shipment. For a good reason is that suppliers are also specialized in providing these materials and goods, so they know how to handle it and they know with whom they can do it properly. It's not that we always just go to freight forwarder and ship these goods. Most of the time, for most of the cases, this is the supplier that we select that is actually dealing with the shipment. And of course, they have to deal with it according to the regulations. Now, the regulation itself, I don't know it myself, so I cannot answer it.
Yeah, sure.
But from procurement perspective, we ensure that supplier deals with the shipment because we know they are specialized. And as Tobias says, it's not about the price; it's about the security of the goods and safe delivery of them.
Yeah. I've seen that we had plenty of questions on subcontractors and responsibilities. One question to you, maybe Richard, because most of the questions have been answered in the thread, but one question about the responsibility. I've seen that you delegate to your suppliers, you know, most of the activities, in fact, and I was wondering about the responsibility to be you know, when you consign a dangerous good transport, you have to sign the document to ship the shipper's document. I was wondering if you also delegate this responsibility to your suppliers, because you know, sometimes it's a bit tricky, well, a bit dodgy to delegate this type of responsibility. So how do you cope with that? You put that in your contract? You just delegate everything?
So that I will partially answer and let probably my colleague Johannes, who's here with us. Is he still here online? No, I don't see him. Anyway, so basically, as said in the presentation, if it's something that is sent by our laboratories or directly by us, IAEA is a certified consignor shipper. So that means we are able to do it. And take this responsibility, but for most of for technical programs mainly, we give the responsibility to suppliers, and this is also depending on the Incoterms we use. But as said, and I said it in the presentation and multiple time, this responsibility is given to suppliers. So of course it has a cost, and when we purchase the goods, then it impacts the cost because that responsibility comes to them. So they need to ensure that they comply with it, and this comes with a cost. But we subcontract it. We don't take that responsibility as it is, and that's why it's clear the responsibility is with them, unless we are the shippers or the consignor, and in this case, then we deal with it, and we have certified and trained people who can handle it according to the regulations.
Okay, right. Thank you, Richard. Maybe one question to Stephanie. You presented a typical accident that occurred a few years ago with lithium batteries. But what are the typical type of non-conformities or accident that you have to cope with in your everyday transport? And how do you try to prevent them?
Okay, so most of the time, the most current non-conformities we encounter is label and documentation issues. For example, a wrong information due to a lack of analysis from the shipper or from the laboratory, for example. That's why we need all the information before shipping the package. But yes, basically this is mainly about wrong information on the labeling or for the package.
Le refus et le retard.
Okay,
and
right.
consequently, it may cause delays and
In airports and
yes, and
yes.
for the air freight companies,
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
of delays, of course.
They are very, cautious about the way you label packages, and if you miss just one information, they just put it aside, and then you have
Yes,
to wait.
exactly.
Yes, we experience that. I know. Okay, right. Any other questions from the thread? Roberto from Electra is asking a question about how to between if you go on a public road to ship some activated material, your question is, do I have to apply the regulations? If it's your private roads, if it's within your own property of your company, then of course the regulations do not apply. But as far as you go outside the fence and use public roads, I think it will be difficult to maybe the presenters can confirm, but it would be difficult to not to apply the regulations that are applicable on public roads. So even if it's 100 meters, we had cases like that. Even if it's a short transport, I think you have to comply with public road transport regulations. Do you confirm, Tobias or Stephanie, in your everyday transport, even when you have a short transport from one side to another, and you want to escape the public regulations, you can't, of course, not.
Même si tu fais 1 kilomètre, il faut que tu sois en règle, quoi.
Yes, of course. Yes, this is
Yes.
applicable when this is a public road.
Yeah, Tobias, I don't know if you have such a.
I would answer it a bit differently if I look upon our operation. As soon as we have public vehicles coming in on our facility, that is classified as public road. It might be our road, it's our facility, our land, but still the regulation applies like it's a normal road. For example, I can't have a forklift driver that doesn't have a driver license for any type of vehicle on public road and driving a forklift on our area, loading a vehicle that's there.
Sure.
So the dangerous goods for us starts with actually a guy going picking it, a forklift driver, and then we're on to a truck. We often talk about it outside the fence on public roads, but
yeah,
the regulation is as hard internally as it is external.
Yeah. we may have some examples of research institutes that try to define, internal transport rules. That was the case at CEA to, have the same set of rules, but on some requirements we try to be a bit lower, so that we stay safe, of course, but we have a set of requirements that are a bit less stringent for internal use only. But of course, the drivers still have to have a license and stuff like that. But for some given requirements, we may apply less stringent rules. Okay, any other questions from the audience that has not been answered? No, I think everyone has an answer. Yes, one question to Tobias. How hard is it to get the authorities on the same page as you?
Well, it's
from my experience, it's not easy, but
well, let me put it like this: we have always succeeded. Sometimes it's the driver having that chat with the police officer that stops him or her. Sometimes it's the supervisor, and sometimes it goes as far as I've been called to public hearing. We've always been able to explain our rationale, and we have never been fined for it. Then yes, I've raised my hand and said we have done something wrong here, and of course we will take whatever penalty comes out of that. But the rationale has always been heard. It has just been various levels before coming there.
Right. Okay. Okay. Another question in the thread, I think. Yes, a question from CERN, from Patrick Muffat. At CERN, we use a dangerous procedure for internal transport, also between. Oh yes, it's just a confirmation that you have also your own internal rules at CERN. So it's a common practice to have this sort of arrangements. Okay, maybe another question on to IAEA in terms of evolution of regulations. Sometimes. We may think that regulations are a bit more stringent. Do you think that they're at the good level of safety? They're not over prescriptive, or do you have any new regulations that will come into place sooner or later, and that will become applicable in European regulations and then in national regulations? Can you say a few words about the cycle of revision of these of updating of these regulations? Or maybe not.
Actually, no.
Okay.
No.
Right.
But what we do is, as said, we have standards, not regulations. So
yes, you're right.
So that's why for us it's a bit different. And whatever it is, whatever shipment, we expect that international and national regulations are followed. So it's as said stringent, but and not all of them are matching, right? So it can be different from one country to another one, but still, so we expect that they are followed. So for us, I cannot answer precisely to this question, but because we have standards.
Okay, right. Tobias, about the level of regulation, is it? I mean, are there any requirements that are difficult to, or maybe Stephanie, that are difficult to cope with, and that you would like to, if you were the authority, to, to downgrade a bit? So sometimes it's a bit too much on some requirements.
Well, there are some requirements out there that are a bit harder than others. Of course, I feel there's a balance on requirements, what's happening on the roads. I mean, for example, when I see, I'm a bit colored by the country Sweden that has a bit of snow and slippery roads, but when I see a foreign truck northern part of Sweden that ended up in some problems, and the driver doesn't even have some type of high visibility clothing, the tires are not at all equipped for driving winter roads. These things where I feel a bit, let's say, unbalanced, where in some cases the requirements are very hard. I think we can live up to the requirements that are harder, but a bit uneven from a safety perspective. Not at all talking financial perspective, but from a safety perspective.
Okay. Right. We have a question from Jimmy Anderson. Do you have any examples of partnerships between your companies and e.g. scientific, for example, scientific facilities or complex demanding industries? Partnerships. Who wants to take the answer on this one? If I can testify from my experience, we had partnerships between transporters and we at CA, we had a partnership with a package designer and manufacturer to help us to share the same fleet of packages, for example, and to share maintenance facilities, because we have we had loads of maintenance operations to implement on packaging. So we had this sort of partnership. But I guess the question is more to do between different scientific facilities. For example, the European laboratories, do they have, and I guess that's what we are trying to build here, is partnerships between research institutes that have the same kind of issues to deal with. So maybe Uter or Jürgen, you can have a few words on that, on what you are trying to build, these partnerships.
May I?
Yes, please.
Yes, and that's actually all about the RI.Logistica initiative. It's not only to learn and it's also to form these kind of alliances to work together to create the flawless supply chain. So that's the aim and goal. If there isn't, we will create it.
Yes.
So, shall we conclude, Jean-Michel? We're at the end of your panel, and
Yes.
that was not so explosive, but very informative. So thank you very much for all the contributions. Very, very interesting. Maybe a last word from your end, Jean-Michel?
Yes, maybe we can make sure to reassure our attendees that all the materials will be given access on your website, and
Yes.
they can use all these platforms that have been presented by Richard, for example. I guess that the audience from the nuclear domain, they would be interested in consulting with these platforms, because I think that there are plenty of useful tools. And then I would like to thank our presenters again, Stephanie, Richard, and Tobias, for these very interesting presentations. And I hope that our attendees have been, enjoying this moment. And I give you the floor back to you, Ute and Jürgen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So, and now for all the attendees, we will continue after the lunch break. So we'll go into a lunch break now that is until 1 o'clock, and then we will reconvene at 1 o'clock under the same link. So you can either stay online directly in this link or rejoin us. And I think we will also send out a reminder towards the end of the lunch break that we are coming up online again at 1 o'clock. So in our last panel discussion today, at 1 o'clock, what will we do, Jürgen?
We will talk about the digital transition and digitalization. So Tobias, your co-workers, the gray-haired ones, they could join in and get a heads up. It's going to be enlightening, I tell you. So stay online.
Yes. We're traveling on the data highway at 1 o'clock, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. So thanks very much again. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.